Does exercise increase or decrease cortisol? Are there studies showing exercise elevates cortisol? Because someone else said exercise reduces cortisol. This question is from Sandrama, heynemana, who left her question in YouTube. And I'm answering it for this episode of Flipping 50, and I so hope that I treated her name with respect. This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and your struggles, and I share with you what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset so that you can get the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. So as with so many podcasts recently, we're giving great content all about hormone balancing and with immune boosting for the time that you're in right now. You don't need information that you needed necessarily 4, 5, or 6 months ago, right while we're in the middle of this pandemic. But even later, what I've realized is the questions you're asking will pertain and be relevant much later. So we've added some of these Q&A podcasts to really get to the bottom of it. And some of them are still really mini podcasts you can listen to while you do a short walk or string a few together and get a lot of Q&As answered. And I hope I'm keeping you company the same way I listen to some of my favorite podcasts while I'm walking. Okay, so let's dive into this. So to come back and regroup with the question, are there studies showing exercise elevates cortisol? There are, and I want to totally empathize. I understand the confusion and why you might be, because second part of that is because someone else said exercise reduces cortisol. And the truth is it does both. And even the best exercise does do both. It increases it and decreases it. But the question is two things. You've got to make two considerations: the type and the timing of the exercise that you're doing. And when you hear a report about a study showing something, you want to make sure that it wasn't done on mice and that it wasn't done on men. Because for a woman in the middle of her life, it needs to reflect. If you're listening to research that says, or a study says, you need to know, where's that study? Can I look at it? Can I dig that up? I need to understand. For me, when I'm a woman in the middle of menopause and understanding what happens with my hormones and my cortisol level because of menopause, then whatever factors I'm considering exercise, what kind of influence exercise has on my hormones, I've got to take the two of those bodies of information and put them together. That's super important. So no matter what, no matter who you're listening to, I want you to make sure that you're asking those questions. Okay, so the question to ask is whether or not your exercise has a positive or negative effect on stress for you. So if we really get down to it, collectively, we can talk about what's true for women in menopause, but you and I and 5 of our sisters, if we went knocking on doors in my neighborhood who are going through menopause, are each having our own unique journey. And so today may be different for me than next month is. Next month may be different than 6 months. So we're changing constantly. Less so once you get into postmenopause, but during that perimenopause phase, when you're really kind of a roller coaster, and that kind of end of the perimenopause period, which is a year or two right before menopause hits, that 12-month mark when you've not had a period. And even the year or two after you've reached that, when you're in postmenopause, there's a lot of just attaining an equilibrium happening. So things may still be up and down. So you've really got to be questioning it right now, this week. Is it working for me? And whether or not the type and the timing of your exercise has a positive or negative effect on your stress. That's what we're going to talk about today. You'll have to give up that old dogma that more is better. If you're really going to play the how do I optimize cortisol with my exercise game, longer sessions of moderate exercise. And I know you've been told forever that moderate exercise, get moderate exercise, everything in moderation. I believe you've got to ditch that thought process. That steady state that you and I learned decades ago actually will increase cortisol with less of a positive post exercise cortisol reduction. So I'm going to break that down. So there are a few points to keep in mind that I'm going to highlight in this episode. And before I jump into those, I want to make sure that you realize this episode is brought to you by the Flipping 50 Fitness Specialist. Whether you are a trainer or health coach, or you'd really love to become one, it's such a compliment to a lot of life experiences that you may have had already, or to a lot of careers that you may have had before this. Teaching, for instance, or being a counselor, being in healthcare as a nurse, as an educator. There are others, because organization and being able to clearly sort out time management for other people, because it's hard to do for ourselves, but all of those may lend themselves to you becoming an excellent health coach or personal trainer if that's your desire. And the Flipping 50 Fitness Specialist is kind of elevating that to the next level. So if you want to help people by understanding what the influence of exercise is on hormones and the hormonal influence on exercise to help women in all phases of menopause, the Flipping 50 Fitness Specialist is something you want to check out right now. And you will know when you get to fitnessmarketingmastery.com/programs why right now is a perfect time to visit, as long as you hurry. As I'm releasing this live in July. Let's dive back in. The points we're covering today. High intensity exercise is associated with reduced hot flashes, but yoga and light exercise is not. Right? So they can be beneficial for reducing stress, not knocking yoga or light exercise. However, if you're really focused on hot flashes and night sweats or what's keeping you up at night, making you miserable, high intensity exercise is your girl's best friend. Next point is reduced body mass index. We know that as BMI is associated with reduced menopause symptoms. So in a recent episode, I describe BMI as well as waist to hip ratio, waist circumference, and body fat, and how they're related to your fatness or fitness. So I'll link to that show if you're unsure of the difference. Third point is moderate. That steady state exercise increases cortisol secretion. Are you sitting down? 150%. And for females in midlife, that could halt your weight loss. It says, stop, no more weight, no more fat burning, which is going to mean no more weight loss, at least of the right kind. And we're probably going to be storing fat, because when your body has that much stress, it perceives there's a threat. Next point, late day exercise of high intensity can be detrimental due to what's called a pregnenelone steal. And I've written about this and talked about it recently. And that has a negative effect of elevated cortisol and then a lack of desired decrease in cortisol. So here's the ideal situation. We plan to exercise and we're doing an optimal day of rest and recovery, day of hard exercise, maybe a day of light exercise. But on that high intensity exercise day, what we want is we will drive cortisol up while we exercise in the way it was meant to be used, a little sprint, and then we stop. And because we use cortisol appropriately, afterward, we have a corresponding decrease in cortisol, which helps us relax, get to sleep, and rest later in the day. Now, if you exercise in the morning when your cortisol naturally is elevated, it gives you that energy to wake up in the morning, probably be more productive, better able to focus and concentrate in the morning. And then you can say later in the afternoon. And if that's true of you, when you exercise in the morning, your exercise doesn't needlessly or harmfully elevate cortisol further. It's just already up. You already have energy. So, exercise appropriately at that point is working with nature and your hormones. And then later, there is a corresponding decrease that's much more predictable because you've done the exercise. So when cortisol comes down, we can relax, we can chill, we can prepare for sleep. And cortisol is supposed to be at its all-time low in the middle of the night. So you are resting, not full of energy, staring at the ceiling. Been there, done that? Yeah, me too. But that pregnenelone steal that happens if you try to do your high intensity exercise late in the day when your cortisol is already coming down, you need cortisol for energy to exercise. What will happen because you don't have enough of it readily available is your body will just say, oh, hey, I've got you covered. And there's a pregnenelone steal. Pregnenelone can be converted to cortisol for energy. Okay, no problem. So you get through the exercise and you may say, I'm fine. I like to exercise late afternoon. It's when I've always done it. But the thing is, do you sleep really well? Do you get sound, refreshing sleep? Solid. You get to sleep, stay asleep, don't wake too early, feel rested when you wake up and ready to go. If you do, okay. Don't fix it. It's not broken. However, if you're struggling with sleep, what's happening is you don't have pregnenelone, which helps you relax and chill, and it's your chill pill and calm later in the evening. So you're in trouble and at risk for having elevated that cortisol too late in the day. It's going to be elevated into the night, and you're not going to get the sleep you need. Your circadian rhythm of hormones during the day and night cycles are not optimized. So in that case, you get this high negative effect of cortisol late in the day, and then you get a lack of the desired decrease of the cortisol that should happen with exercise. Last point is high intensity exercise early doesn't cause that negative rise in cortisol because it's already elevated, but it does give a greater positive reduction in late day to help you relax and sleep. So just to drive that point home again. All right. So choose your objective before you choose your exercise. That's the important thing. So a lot of women I know will ask, I don't know how to exercise right now. I don't know what I should be doing. But the question is, what do you need to do? What do you want to do? Are you trying to lose weight, trying to lose belly fat specifically, or are you trying to exercise simply for longevity and to help you sleep better and decrease your stress level? So pick your reason. What are your highest priorities? We could also throw in, I've lost some muscle mass. I can't see any muscle definition or tone. I need to work on that. Or I know I have low bone density and I need to work on that. All things that could be potential priorities, but you can't have all the things on number one priority line. You have to say, okay, my first, my second, my third. And you may need some help with that because there are things that if you focus on them first, like you're not sleeping right now, focusing on exercise that will help you sleep right now will probably then help you with the muscle tone, will then help you with decreasing your stress level and increasing your bone density. So you need a little help with that? Reach out. Yoga may be fantastic for you if you're most in need of rest and relaxation before you go on for more exercise. And always, if what you're doing is working, don't fix it. But if it's not, then you have to make a change to see and to feel a change. So also, if you can successfully lose weight from your exercise, you will reduce your menopause symptoms. So that was clear in some of the research. If you are overweight, you can stand to lose weight and you've got a lot of menopause symptoms like the hot flashes, belly fat, night sweats, brain fog, all of those, not to mention, of course, the the overall weight. But if you can successfully lose weight from exercise, you can reduce those menopause symptoms. It's proven that women with a lower BMI entering menopause have fewer symptoms. So for weight loss, specifically for fat loss to occur, your exercise has to optimize cortisol. So we come back to that again. And it has to increase fat oxidation during and after exercise. Those two things can only happen with the right type and timing of exercise. So no longer can we just say, well, I'm exercising. We have to unpack that. What are you doing for exercise? What time of day are you doing it? How many days of the week are you doing it? Are you doing it the Goldilocks? Are you doing it too much or too little? You and I have been brainwashed for decades to believe that more exercise is better and that any time of day that you'll do it is better than not doing it. I'm here to tell you that during menopause, just as your hormones have changed the way your body responds to many things, it also changes the way you respond to exercise. So do short sessions of high intensity interval training and short sessions of strength training where you reach muscular fatigue, not just tired at the end of the session. In fact, you might not be, but you should reach fatigue in your chest exercises, your back exercises, and those leg exercises. Then you've provided adequate stimulus to offset the negative effects of stress. You kind of hit it and quit it. And that's a pun intended, certainly for high intensity interval training. But the idea is we do it for a short period of time, not for longer. And do those in the morning. You do use cortisol during those exercise sessions and you elevate it higher during high intensity. And you have the appropriate desired decrease of cortisol after. So time your exercise when you're doing intense exercise. Or if you have to exercise late in the day because of your schedule, then reduce your intensity. Remember, you use cortisol for exercise. So your cortisol levels are declining throughout the day, which is what should happen so that you're relaxed and ready to sleep. Early, intense exercise that elevates cortisol rewards you later with desired drop in cortisol. Late day exercise does not. And you've done that pregnenelone steal, which means you got through the workout, but you may not sleep well because that calm, chill feeling supplied by pregnenelone is missing. You've used it all up. That all backfires on you. So without sleep, you can't have optimal cortisol, testosterone, growth hormone, and checking off that box for interval training late in the afternoon may actually keep you fat and tired. You've heard it before. Timing is everything. You might get away with strength training late day. It doesn't quite rev you up the way a HIIT training does. Low to moderate exercise intensity of various durations are also helpful, meaning you can do like low to moderate, go for a walk, for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, even 30 minutes, or go for a hike for that matter, for hours. It may be just fine for you. So the important part, enjoy it. Focus less on the number of calories you're burning than on the number of smiles during the movement. And there you have it. So how does cortisol really work? But the most important thing is, how does cortisol really work for a woman in midlife already susceptible to the negative effects of stress? Does exercise elevate cortisol? Yes. Does exercise decrease cortisol? Yes. Are they happening in the right balance with the right type and timing of exercise? Those are really the questions you want to look at for your life and for the results that you're getting, which are, at the end of the day, the best evidence. What you're doing is either working or you need to change it. I would so love it if you would leave a rating in iTunes. It really helps. I'll put the link to do that, as well as the link to the Flipping 50 specialist in the show notes, and leave all the resources that I may have mentioned throughout the show. And don't forget, join the new Flipping 50 Insiders community on Facebook. It is a group for you. Those of you who are listening to the Flipping 50 podcast and want to keep the conversation going, add a question, comment, suggest a guest, tell me a question that you've got for an upcoming episode, and a place for you to connect with other women just like you. What are you waiting for? Let's start Flipping 50 today.